Want to make your next party a ton of fun for everyone involved? Ask your guests if breakfast is an acceptable option for dinner and see what happens.
No freaking way. They have breakfast for dinner. Lois never lets me do that.
There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to find out very quickly just who says that breakfast is only acceptable before 12 p.m. noon and those who are wrong. I said what I said. Don't at me right now. Breakfast is just made for mornings. You can't just be out here eating pancakes and waffles at 8 p.m. after milking cows and doing chores. It's just wrong. It's not meant to be. In much the same way, there's plenty of debate when it comes to trim packages of pickup trucks available, but none more polarizing than the one and only King Ranch. I'm Dustin with Custom Offsets, dusty.co on the old Instagram. In today's video, we're cinching up the saddles, we're riding off into the sunset as Toby Keith plays in the background, and finding out, is a King Ranch really worth it? Of course I'm wearing a cowboy hat. What are you talking about? We're talking about the one and only King Ranch here. You have to wear a cowboy hat when you... What do you mean you don't care? Whatever.
Whatever, major loser.
Anywho, while we may not have cowboy hats for you for sale, so that way you can wear it in your King Ranch, if you need a set of wheels and tires for your truck, be that, a King Ranch or pretty much any other truck in the market, you just check us out, customoffsets.com. We got a ton of your favorite products in stock and ready to ship to your door. And when we say a ton, we mean a ton. We have like 150,000 wheels and tires. This is a lot. Plus, while it may be cold outside now, it's not gonna be cold outside forever. And if you're in Florida, it's not really cold out anyway, but hey, good for you guys. Show season is creeping up on us quicker than a rattlesnake in a desert, so if winter has your wallet feeling a little light, then hey, no sweat, guy, we gotcha. We got a few different financing options that'll get you as low as 0%, plus you can build your truck and your credit at the same time. Pretty neat. All right, let's get into the actual video. So everyone loves cowboys, and that's just a fact.
That's the fact, Jack. That's a fact, Jack.
You can't deny that. From Big Hoss and the Crew and Bonanza to the one and only John Wayne through the 50 million movies that he was in, my childhood was filled with wide-brimmed hats, horses, and six-shooters in the good old Wild West. But the legacy of the King Ranch is more than just a badge on the side of your truck and more than just some fancy leather seats in the interior of your pickup. Did you know that the King Ranch is actually a real-life working ranch in Texas? Better yet, it has arguably one of the best stories I've ever heard. Let me explain to you. The story of the King Ranch starts way back in 1830s in New York, of all places, which doesn't make a lot of sense because we're talking about a ranch in Texas. We'll get there. Enter Captain Richard King, who at this point isn't even a captain yet. He's 11 years old. He's a young guy, and he's working as an indentured servant to a jeweler in New York. Indentured servant by his father, AKA legal slavery, right? So, for obvious reasons, I've never met this jeweler guy, but the story goes that the jeweler he's not the nicest guy. He's shrewd, he's difficult to work with, he's kind of an asshole. So young Richard does what any indentured servant, 11-year-old of the 1830s would do, and he's finally fed up with the garbage that this dude is putting him through. He just bails. Gone. He's 11. He's like, I'm out. I'm gonna head out.
Bye, Felicia.
He leaves New York City by stowing away on the hull of a ship headed south off of the Manhattan Harbor. This young kid dived into a ship to just bail from this jeweler. It's crazy. This led to Mr. King working on various steamboats, and as the years passed, he quickly rose the ranks, eventually becoming the captain of his very own steamboat and running goods and people along the south lower Rio Grande River. Now, sometime around 1850 mark, right, Captain King set out for a trip up to Corpus Christi, a few hundred miles north, to the Lone Star Fair of all places, through a region called the Wild Horse Desert, where he just absolutely fell in love with an area surrounding a creek that was full of wildlife. So much so that him and his business partner at the time decided that they wanted to buy it. All 15,500 acres of it. And thus the King Ranch was born. Now, by the end of the Civil War, the King Ranch had grown to over 146,000 acres and was growing every year. The challenge at the time was getting the Longhorn cattle from the ranch to the market and required driving these cattle over thousands of miles to the Midwestern railways so that way you could load them onto cars and sell them at market. To differentiate Captain King's registered cattle, he branded them with a brand that will last forever in the history of trucks, the ever-famous Running W. This iconic cattle brand would not only be a clear identifier for the cattle of the King Ranch, but also would be branded into the interior of Ford pickups for over 20 years. By the late 90s, the King Ranch had grown to over 800,000 acres, which is well over 1,300 square miles if you can even imagine the size of that. Now because of this, the King Ranch had pickup trucks, like a lot of pickup trucks. Like so many that they had to begin looking for an industry partner to help them source the 260 some trucks for the ranch. The Ford King Ranch partnership officially started in 1999, and by 2001, Ford had successfully produced the first King Ranch truck, a 2001 F-150 Super Crew, otherwise known as a crew cab because I don't know, Ford does this cool thing where they're like, it's a super crew. It's a crew cab, right? Let's just be straight about your cab sizing. What else are you lying about, Ford? Huh? Not only would this be the most high-end truck that Ford had ever made, but it was also the first crew cab truck with a gross vehicle weight rating, or GVWR, of under 8,500 pounds. Before this, you could only get a crew cab in the 3/4 and 1-ton versions of most of the trucks. Over the next few years, Ford would expand the King Ranch designation to not only their heavy-duty line of trucks, but also into the SUV market with the Expedition and some more. The King Ranch is, by design, an embodiment of the great state of Texas. It's like sweet tea and lemonade, it just goes together. The leather seats are a dark brown. They're typically made from a less manufactured grade of leather, and ultimately they're the type of leather that would wear in with age, getting darker in coloring on the high stress areas like the sides of the bolsters and the back of the seat. The dash typically features some combination of wood grain and tan, and overall this trim package is just equipped as well as a Platinum, but with all the feel of a real working ranch truck. And if it's a new truck you're after, then good luck, as Ford Motor Company just released details on their new King Ranch interiors, and they look good. Like, they look really good. Although, I gotta admit, I am a little sad that they traded out the whole saddle leather thing for more of like a Napa leather appearing material. It's a little bit more refined and probably attacks the like much higher end clientele. So why on earth would you want a King Ranch some 21 years after the very first King Ranch truck was ever introduced? For us, it really comes down to styling. The King Ranch embodies the working man. The leather seats with the branding, the saddlebag-like rear seat pockets, and the overall just handcrafted leather feel of that interior really brings us back to a time where cattle and cowboys roamed the open prairie, and evenings were spent around a campfire with a can of baked beans, and you just ate it out of there, and then you washed it out and poured your coffee in it the next day because cups were hard to come by. Either way, one thing is for sure, the King Ranch is sure to raise a few reactions out of anybody you're having a conversation with, because guys either love them or they hate them. But what about you guys? Do you love the King Ranch, or is it maybe not your style? Would you own one? Let us know down in the comment section below, and as always, if you need wheels and tires for your truck, you can check us out at customoffsets.com. With that, I'm Dustin. We'll see you guys on the next one.